Welcome to my channel. This is the Diamond Chrysalis, aka Divested Diamonds. This is divestment with purpose, and you have arrived.
Let me say this real quick. If you're a man and you're expecting women to spoil you and take you on dates, dude, that sounds like you're looking for a freaking husband. All right? And if you are, to each his own. But if you're expecting most women to take you on dates and to spoil you, you're out your goddamn mind, bro. Right? Because you have to understand something, that most women are attracted to certain traits in men, just like most men are attracted to certain traits in women. And what you have to understand is that most women see men as providers. Most women see men as assertive, as leaders, as strong, right? And the problem is you're going to have a lot of disconnect with women because most women are not going to do that long term. And the numbers prove that. A woman might put up with that bullshit for a year or two, but eventually she's going to kick you to the curb, bro, right? Because at the end of the day, we all are looking for certain things in the opposite gender. What you need to do is you need to grow the fuck up, get off your ass, and start making some fucking money and some moves, dude. Word.
Hello, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for being here today. Please do me a favor and click the like button as you watch this video. Thank you kindly. So, welcome back to those of you who've seen part 1 of Hypergamy. If you haven't watched that video, but need tips on how not to get bamboozled before or while engaging in a hypergamous relationship, you might want to check that out. Thank me later. Just kidding. See this woman? See this beautiful woman on the screen? As previously mentioned in part 1 of Hypergamy, her name is Ella Freeman. She's 24 years of age, from New York, and a dating coach. Now, some might think or even say that she's too young to be a dating coach. And, well, she is. Most people are more inclined to listen to someone with a little more life experience. Someone a little more seasoned, so to speak. But baby, she is wise beyond her years. She dropped a lot of gems in regards to relationships, and honestly, someone like her is actually needed to cater to people within her age range, those looking for solid relationship advice. She seems confident, right? Look, she seems confident, self-aware, and no nonsense when it comes to relationships, and quite frankly, that's very admirable. So anyway, recently, she came under fire by the internet police for saying that she refuses to split the bill on any date, and the internet was outraged. You know how it is. When you don't have the right talking points in these streets, you get dragged. It wasn't all doom and gloom, though. There were those who agreed with what she had to say, and it was actually quite nice to see that some of these women were upholding their standards. The opposing side of the internet mob called her a money-hungry gold digger. She insists, however, that men should reward the time and effort that she puts in to looking good. She was also called, quote-unquote, selfish for insisting that ladies should never split the bill during a date for the following reason. She believes that guys who ask women to contribute don't value the time and effort they put into looking their best for the man. Ella says, being with someone who isn't generous with his wallet is not an option. But she insisted it's not because she's, quote-unquote, money hungry. Ella further explains that she believes that potential suitors should also cover the entire check because she has high standards and knows what she brings to the table. What can I say? I totally agree with her. But try telling that to the internet males with microphones. Majority of them want slaves or maids, women that they could mold into whatever benefits them the most. They want an extension of their mother, but with intimate privileges. But I digress. She continues. By splitting the bill, I'm agreeing to form a connection with a man who doesn't know his role in a relationship and expects me to be 50% of the man he's not. Oops, facts. Absolute facts. Let me repeat that. By splitting the bill, I'm agreeing to form a connection with a man who doesn't know his role in a relationship and expects me to be 50% of the man he's not. She's wise beyond her years. Well, she goes on to say that men who do 50-50 do not understand that the woman's investment was made prior to the date. Facts. Facts. Ella explained that it's less about the money and more about quantifying the effort that a man is willing to put in. She further stated that by not contributing to the check, she feels like she's keeping her dignity intact and avoiding bad experiences with the man in the future. Let me just add a little bit more to this. Most men choose to put their best foot forward when getting to know a new woman. As time has gone by, we've seen some of these attitudes change. Now, we can say that about women too, but we're talking about men here, so stay with me. Most men are no longer willing to impress women. Today's men or males think that they could just show up, dressed like something the cat dragged in, looking a hot mess, and after they've wined and dined you, they have the audacity to ask you to go Dutch once the check arrives. And even worse, they also feel entitled to a second date. Let me tell you something. It would be so much easier to just gather up your girlfriends and have a girls' night out. What she's really saying here is that a man will treat you with the utmost respect, not only when you spark his interest, but when he intends to do something with that interest. So watch out how he talks to you, how he treats you during the date, and observe whether or not he takes charge once the check arrives. For instance, story time. Oh my gosh. Look, I once dated a guy who always got the door for me. Every time we drove somewhere, every time he picked me up to go somewhere nice, he would literally say to me, "Hold on, honey, I'll get the door for you." When we were out for dinner, he wouldn't allow me to look at the check. He would always take care of it instantly, and I'd be none the wiser how much was spent. And that was that. He was very old-fashioned in how he treated me, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. He treated me like a lady. He complimented me and had a lot of respect for me. He actually held me in very high regard. So basically, what Ella is saying here is that a lot of these men set the standard on how they will continue to treat you. Look, it's great to compromise in any relationship, but don't do that until he's taken the time to impress you. If he gets the sense that you don't care how he treats you and can get away with treating you in a mediocre fashion, then that sets the stage, right? It sets the standard for what's to come in the future. Don't be too shy to the point where you just go along to get along. Don't just agree with anything that he has to say for fear of being judged or being labeled a gold digger. When you're talking about a man with high levels of maturity and intelligence, a man who understands women, he will know exactly where you're coming from. Only a loser of a male looking for a hookup and no substance will expose and express just how shallow he is. These types of men are not worth your time. So Ella has been outspoken about her stance on TikTok, where she's gained more than 20,000 followers, and her controversial opinions on dating have sparked a slew of backlash. Take a look at the following.
She said she wish it was two of me.
You're wearing church slacks to the bar. Be fucking for real. In that judgy, sour, soggy, pamper ass attitude and that DJ Tanner bang with that freshly out the pack AliExpress bundle taped to the back of your head, there's not a fucking thing you can tell me, okay? Those who dress like hoochies or free hookers are there to get their back blown out, most likely, not proselytize and convert people to Christianity, you fucking doorknob. Look, sis, if you want to dress like you sell Cutco knives or timeshare insurance up and down Ocean Drive, that's your prerogative. No one's stopping you. Just leave the rest of us the fuck alone, because we don't care.
She said she wish it was two of me.
You know what? I watch some of your content. Even though I'm no level of coach, I will say I have some tips on my own. Number one, going to the club in a two-piece suit and a bolo tie instead of a miniskirt does not change the fact that you are what? Still at the club. Number two, in Miami, it is hot as the devil's tank. So yes, some women are dressed half naked, but surprise, so are the men. Number three, dressing like Jackie Kennedy does not stop him from looking at Maryland. Number four, if he has a gold star membership to the He-Man Woman Haters Club, it does not matter if you are wearing a niqab or a G-string and pleasers. He's going to treat you wrongly because you are a woman. When are we going to learn that the way that you are dressed does not dictate how you should be treated? You are no better than anybody because of the way you dress. Point blank, period.
And the reason Ella was being dragged was because she said the following: dressing modestly in Miami to show the girls that you can be sexy and elegant. Not all of us want to look like free hookers. I see nothing wrong with that statement. The problem with people in today's society, but especially here on the internet, is that if they don't like you, they will use that as an excuse to insult you. Some of these people are just waiting, salivating, and hoping you'd say something offensive so they could tell you about yourself. Yes, people will judge you based on how you present yourself. Let's not pretend that we don't know what she meant by that statement. There are a lot of women who think being exposed to a little sunshine means walking around half naked. And sadly, that does send a certain message to other people. Let's use the example of Sierra and that infamous dress, if I can call it that. Again, mixed opinions. The reason she got backlash for wearing that dress is because, I don't know, we expect her to know better? When she showed up in public dressed like this, some of us had to wonder if something was amiss. Because here's the thing, she's a beautiful woman with a great body. No one's disputing that. This dress made her seem desperate for attention. It made her seem as though she was trying too hard. She was trying too hard to prove something. If cheap was what she was going for, she definitely achieved that. It's easy for people to call Ella, myself, and others who believe in, quote unquote, leaving something to the imagination as haters. The fact is, it's not hating when you're trying to show others an alternative way of presentation. The issue with a lot of us as Black women is that We're not used to being critiqued, nor are we open to valuable advice. Look, no one likes to be critiqued, myself included, but sometimes we just have to put our big girl panties on and listen to other points of view. Not everybody in life wants to see you fail, and it's not always coming from a place of malice. Look, I don't like it either, but since I'm a citizen of the world, people will always have opinions on what I do. Do I take all advice? Heck no. Use discernment. That's all I'm saying. One thing we all need to realize is that it's not always hateful when someone is doing it for your own betterment. The issue here is what's been allowed to happen is that stripper culture has infiltrated the mainstream, and certain people can't tell the difference between classy and trashy. We're living in times where women have gotten into the habit of outdoing each other for attention. There's almost a race of sorts to see who can be more daring, wearing less clothes, thinking that somehow that will get them a mate or potential husband. Ella's message is not for every woman because not every woman will get married or wants to get married. Dressing provocatively will get you attention. There's no doubt about that. Depending on what your goal is in life, you need to question if the attention you're getting is truly what you're looking for. Most men will look, they'll touch, they'll have fun with you for one night and toss you to the side. And while a lot of women were laughing at her outfit and saying, "Oh, it's too hot to dress like that in Miami. I would never." I'll bet she gets more attention and treated more respectfully than those wearing strips of fabric covering their nipples and cooch and nothing else. Look, no one's telling other women what they can or cannot do. Those who feel strongly about wearing next to nothing in public can do just that. Do whatever you want. Nobody truly cares. As far as I could tell, Ella here was just making a statement and somewhat offering advice that could benefit most women, especially those hoping to be taken seriously. She wasn't calling anyone in particular a hooker, but you know how the saying goes. A hit dog will what? Okay. If the shoe fits, wear it. When people give advice, we must all use discernment. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. Anyway, back to Ella Freeman. She says she's determined to end the negative stigma and put a stop to the misconceptions surrounding women who demand more from their men. Most people think we're selfish, but I don't think that's the truth. She continued, a high-value woman knows what she brings to the table and expects the same in return. Another assumption is that we don't work or we're lazy. But a woman with high standards in dating always makes sure that the man is able to provide for both in case she doesn't want to work. And I totally agree with her here. Men want submission, but then want you to be 50-50 in relationships. Most women will submit naturally to a man who provides everything a woman needs. When a man is able to provide for his wife, and she trusts in his efforts to do so, he never has to ask her to submit. That normally happens naturally. Having a man who's a great provider gives a woman the chance to thrive in her femininity while doing her part in the relationship. Even if she chose to be a career woman prior to getting married, it would be comforting to know that if she were to start a family, she wouldn't have to work until the 9th month and then struggle through the pregnancy, worrying about getting back to work as soon as possible because the bills have to be paid. The option to return to work or not after delivery needs to be on the table. Otherwise, what's the point of being married? Most couples have normalized struggle love to the point where women are constantly working in overdrive while taking care of the majority of household responsibilities. The truth of the matter is, relationships are give and take and vice versa. The notion that men provide while women bring nothing to the table is absolutely disingenuous. Most men who have such complaints have never been in a serious relationship. These are the same ones who consume and simply regurgitate red pill talking points, and it's toxic. Adult relationships are conditional. Everybody knows that. It's something for something and nothing for nothing. If you expect a woman to do everything for you, as well as share her DNA with you for nothing, perhaps relationships and women aren't for you. We have to be realistic when it comes to relationships because the bottom line is, as much as men want to have their needs and wants met, women want the same too. Let's get back to Ella. She says she's seen women building their businesses and focusing on themselves while being provided for by a man. And when it comes to being reduced to our looks, although a woman's beauty is a valuable aspect, we understand the value a woman brings to the relationship, such as emotional stability, nurturing qualities, and support. Many studies have shown that men can't live without women. We better a man's life in all aspects, and since we know what we bring, we expect the man to bring his part. One of the most negative comments that Ella has received is people who call her a gold digger. And while she doesn't take it as a compliment, she isn't bothered by the term because it means she's being perceived as a woman who refuses to settle for a man who doesn't respect her. The term gold digger refers to a woman that's money hungry. However, the term has been thrown around to every woman that decides to raise her standards in dating and expects her partner to be financially stable and to provide for her. She explained, sadly, there's a lot of men who are frustrated with their lives. They are not financially stable, and that makes them deeply insecure. I feel like women should learn a few things from gold diggers. They always ask for what they want. Men have no issues asking for intimacy and submissiveness from a woman, so why should we be hesitant to get our needs met? Another thing she's fiercely against are coffee dates, which she described as a waste of time and disrespectful to women. It says a lot about a man's intentions with that woman, she added. A man that proposes a coffee date does not perceive you as worthy of his time and effort and is probably diversifying his money so he can date as many women as he can with minimal effort. Ella said her high standards were instilled in her from a young age, thanks to her parents. I was fortunate to grow up with both parents, so I had a clear example of how gender roles build the foundation of a healthy and long-lasting relationship. I grew up with a providing father and a nurturing mother who had the luxury of raising her children and being a stay-at-home mother. She also spoke of how she's had success with her teaching methods and how those methods have worked for her as well as the women who've sought her advice. She's currently in a long-term relationship, and this is her boyfriend. Cute couple. So these are some of the comments by those who had something to say about her level up methods and mentality. The first comment says, "Gold digging is a flex? Damn, we know where you stand." The next comment says, "I never been called that in my life. I also always made my own money. and never saw a man as a cash machine. I somehow had high ambition. Well, good for you. Another says, or maybe I have my own money. Next commenter says, my ex called me a gold digger for not believing nor wanting to do 50-50 with him. Laughing emojis. And someone else says, you're right. It's a badge of honor. Wear it proud, ladies. LOL. The last comment here states, I've been called, I suppose she meant to say I've been called. Anyway, she says, I've been called that plenty of times by broke men. I can believe that. Only struggling men have vitriol for women who ask for something in return when it comes to relationships. Look, I totally agree with this young lady. Despite the backlash, with people stitching her videos on TikTok and really being vile towards her, it doesn't change the fact that she's right. We will not all agree on this because all women aren't a monolith. However, real life and studies have shown that even women who are doing well for themselves still need a man who's doing better than them. One thing I do know for a fact is a woman who normally provides her nurturing skills and emotional stability to her husband and kids, if they have any, is usually unable to do so when there are financial issues within the relationship. If she has to work 3 jobs while neglecting the kids in the process, can't take care of herself because there's no time for that. This type of environment breeds resentment and toxicity because I can assure you that she would be the one doing the bulk of the work in that relationship. Financial stability is an important part of a relationship. 50-50 is nothing but a scam. At the end of the day, you as a woman will end up doing more. And if you have children, it goes from 50-50 to 80-20. Guess who's doing the 80? Show me a woman who gleefully advocates for that, and I'll show you a liar. Relationships aren't free because the world that we live in isn't. Most men are willing to cut corners because it's easier for them. Not you. They're looking out for themselves, not you. This is why maintaining your standards and sticking to them is very important. A lot of people will always have something to say about your decision to not entertain broke men. They will always have something to say about your decision to not want undesirable men in your life, as if somehow it's your responsibility to make sure they're okay. Don't fall for the scam as well as the shaming tactics and do what's right for you. Even when they tell you, oh, your standards are too high. You're going to end up alone. Just say to them, so what? What exactly is wrong with being alone? What is wrong with having a dog? What is wrong with having a cat? What is wrong with appreciating your own company? Why do they make it so difficult? I would rather have peace than have stress in my life. It's really as simple as that. And if you are an introvert like I am, you value your own company anyway, so what difference does it make? Being alone is not an issue. But anyway, let's move on to Ms. Iyanla, Ebony K. Williams, and Sherri Shepherd. As you know, this story picked up a lot of steam as soon as it was put out there, and a lot of people were and are still divided on this. There's been a lot of talk, and it has ignited an age-old conversation, really, of self-love and self-preservation in regards to Black women. When you've been part of a so-called community that pedestalizes and values mediocrity due to the fact that the majority of the male population lack the drive and ambition to push themselves academically or otherwise, it conjures up a lot of pushback. It conjures up a lot of vitriol when the women of the so-called community are usually the ones running things due to the fact that the males have never wanted to. It's a hard pill to swallow once that mediocrity has been highlighted and put on center stage. We've all seen the clip that sparked this whole conversation, right? Let's take a listen and talk some more.
I'm looking forward to straightening my crown, Dr. Iyanla. Let me ask you this. Let's get to the logistics, though. Let's get to the logistics. We know that black women are earning college degrees faster than anybody else. Many of us are doing like we're doing, Iyanla. We're getting those terminal degrees, those JDs, MD, PhDs. We also are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, along with Latina women in America. Pew Research said that women are now out-earning men
Yes.
in 22 of the largest cities in America, including where I live, New York, DC, LA, you name it. When we talk, and I know that you've said that you cannot teach a man or tell a man how to be a man, so I will not ask you to indict men in this question. But I do want you to speak, Iyanla, to how women need to, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build, when some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if
a bus
he owns
driver?
the bus? If he owns
No.
it. If he owns the bus.
See, that's a
Iyanla.
problem. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Okay.
Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society.
The standard and criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society. Now, I want you ladies to really think about this. This is a very powerful statement. I want you to think about what she's really saying here. This is such a loaded statement. So many subliminals here. Let me just repeat that. The standard and criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society. Let's address that statement very quickly. Men, not women, have positioned themselves on top of the hierarchy to be in control of things. Men, not women, have positioned themselves as the leaders of what? That's right, the patriarchy. Men have told women time and time again that when they lead, a woman must do what? Exactly. Follow. So, with that in mind, is it then wrong to hold them accountable to a standard and position that they themselves created? This situation is nothing new. But what I do find interesting is when the patriarchy fails, okay? When the patriarchy fails to live up to the standard set by themselves, rather than keep pushing to be better, they then expect the so-called weaker sex to downgrade along with them. If women are doing their part, and we are, and going above and beyond, should they be looking up to a floundering patriarchy? I want you to think about that. This is almost as ridiculous as blind faith. Why is it incumbent upon women to be soft and feminine when we're taking on roles that are supposed to be done by men? Do we not see the flagrant hypocrisy here? The fact that most men are being left behind is not due to a lack of resources or power. If women, who are always considered second-class citizens by the patriarchy itself, can flourish, why not the men? Women have had to create and build, in some cases, with limited resources and opportunities. So why aren't some of these men able to meet the standard that they set upon themselves? I'm just saying, is it, as always, the woman's responsibility to clean up and coddle lazy, inefficient, incompetent men who can't live up to their own patriarchal standards? Let's continue.
I would date a bus driver if he loved driving the bus, if he was a man of integrity, if he was good to his mama, if he treated me well. I would date a bus driver.
So she would date a bus driver with these minimal expectations and common decency? The bar, ladies, is set so low. Is this equivalent to saying, well, at least it's got a job? And one more thing, pay attention to the virtue signaling here. When Iyanla says, the standard and criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society, she's not referring to men of other races. This is strictly targeted towards Black women and their continued pacification of Black men. Some of what she listed are nothing but characteristic traits for a regular, normal, decent human being. There's no wow factor. This is not impressive at all. It's amazing how a lot of Black women are simply okay with bare minimum expectations. What exactly did she say that was so wrong? Given Iyanla's failed marriages and the fact that she's incapable of picking better for herself, is it surprising to anyone at all, that she would suggest this? And by the way, I do believe that she would indeed date a bus driver. Clearly, she learned nothing from her 3 failed marriages. I did say in my community post that she would never date a bus driver herself, but I've since changed my mind about that. I actually think she would. She appears to have a lot of advice for other women, but none for herself. And I do find that very interesting. She really could benefit from some of her non-toxic advice. She looks like the type who would gladly build a man. On the flip side of that, Ebony wouldn't and isn't interested in any of that. She's 39 years of age. She'll be 40 in September, and shout out to all my Virgos. She's educated, accomplished, and beautiful. Why would she not exclude certain groups of men from her dating pool? She's well within her rights to do so. It makes no sense to be that accomplished and then choose to be in a struggle-love situation with a man who is below your station in life. What's really disingenuous about this conversation is how people are twisting her words, putting words in her mouth, and acting as though she said that there was something wrong with bus drivers. We all heard what she said, and she uttered none of the sort. The reason most people are upset is because this conversation highlights a lot of Black male insecurities. We've all heard majority of them downplay Black women's education. They hope you'd keep quiet about it because it showcases a lack of theirs. All you have to do as a Black woman is just accept them in their entire mediocre glory. Everybody knows that most of them do not value education because they have failed at it. Most are quitters. She spoke honestly about her preference in the type of man that she would like. which, if we're being very honest here, is contrary to how a lot of Black women would respond. And it truly bothers them. It's not what they want to hear. As a Black woman, you should be on board with building a man and being a community mule because that's all you're good for. Why change now when most of you have been doing this forever? You need to get down with a program. Help a brother out. Never mind all the bad examples that we've all seen of Black and mixed race women being bamboozled. Never mind that. In order to keep your Black card, you need to show the community just how much pain you are able to withstand because it's all part of the programming. It goes hand in hand. How dare you eliminate certain groups of men, and how dare your standards be high? Who do you think you are? Standards are meant for women of other races, not Black women. Why would you think that you, as an accomplished Black woman, are too good for someone who's clearly not on your level? And notice how she didn't disrespect bus drivers and blue-collar workers in general, but people are still up in arms about it. This is because a lot of good-for-nothing men are used to getting with silly-minded, educated Black women for their resources and then leaving them high and dry after they've used them up. Once they're done with you, they then move on to be with the women that they really want. And sadly, everybody knows it's not you. We all know that you're not what they desire. Dating down should be a crime. It doesn't help women at all. Even worse, it gets Black women into the poorhouse as misery becomes their home. Don't do it. It's really sad how other Black women can't respect your stance on who you choose as a life partner. Just because they think a certain way and can tolerate certain things, they feel that you should have to experience that kind of discomfort too. If it was good enough for them, why not you? What's sad is that Ebony felt the need to return to the internet to address what she had said. Sis, these are bullies. They want you to grovel and apologize for something that requires no apology at all. Let's take a listen.
Today's sidebar starts with a note of gratitude. I want to thank the culture for making my interview with Dr. Iyanla Van Zandt one of the most popular and actively engaged content offerings the Griot has produced. So before I tell you my thoughts, let's replay the clip that had some of y'all deep into your feelings. I do want you to speak, Iyanla, to how women need to, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build, when some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if
a bus
he owns
driver?
the bus? If he owns
No.
it. If he owns the bus.
See, that's a problem. That's a problem.
Now let's address the response to the interview and what some of y'all are calling a backlash. So let me be clear. First, I am a professional disruptor. So backlash is my business. And I will always take it on the chin for the sake of advancing the work, conversation, or movement. So know that I am completely unfazed by the onslaught of nasty comments, wishing me a sad, lonely, bitter existence until my untimely death. Now, that is some weird energy to be wishing onto a Black woman, especially one who has dedicated her life to the liberation of Black folk. But, whatever. I guess go off. See, I wanted to talk about how do we close the gap between black women who do show up in a so-called masculine posture, those of us that are providing and building and protecting due to circumstances that we might feel make us feel that if we don't do it for ourselves, we will have to go without the resources and protections we need to feel safe in this world. But Dr. Iyanla went in a different direction. She asked me a personal question. And y'all know I have been extremely transparent about the fact that my life choices and my chosen lifestyle are far outside of the norm. So when I said that I would date the bus owner, a lot of y'all heard something different. Some of you heard the following. Bus drivers are whack. Bus drivers are broke. Oh, and I'm too good for a bus driver. The only thing is, y'all made that part up. See, I said what I said. But then some of y'all started talking about salaries and hourly wages, pensions and benefits. And that's wild because I was never talking about money at all. I was talking about black ownership, but some of y'all made it about money. I'm talking about ownership, black enterprise and entrepreneurship, because really I am talking about black liberation. And if you read my book, you'll understand why. So I'm standing 10 toes down on that position, and I don't really care if you're hurt or offended by it. And since some of y'all are already big mad, let me go ahead and make you incensed. So out of the 50,000 plus comments posted on social, I only saw a handful that even considered the possibility of a bus owner being a more aspirational position and recognizing that I am actually speaking and pouring into the ascension of black men when I said what I said. But see, no, some of y'all were too busy naming and shaming me personally and black women in general as undesirable, gold diggers, and much worse. Now, I suspect that some of y'all are the same men that were bringing home C's and D's on your report cards, only to then be coddled by parents that said, well, that's okay, as long as you're doing your best. Well, listen, I love and believe in the excellence of black men. So no, my dear, C's and D's or any other form of mediocrity is not okay. No, I will not create a soft place for you or anybody that I love to fall comfortably into the bigotry of low expectations. So I'm going to say one more time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with driving a bus. My mother Gloria drove one for years. But could it be that black America has been sold a narrative of average, regular, and typical being good enough for us? Well, see, that's called white supremacy. And in this case, it takes the form of conditioning black Americans to happily accept being a permanent American underclass. But see, because I know the truth about black folk in America, no, average is not and will never be good enough for me. And the gag is, I don't think it's good enough for you either.
I wish she hadn't done that. Quote, I love and believe in the excellence of black men. End quote. Girl, these men don't care about you. They wouldn't spit on you if you were on fire. They wouldn't protect you if you needed help. All those insults you got, the vitriol, came from an authentic place. Accept it and move on. Sometimes the issue with women such as Ebony, and don't get me wrong, I love Ebony. I'm talking about women who aren't used to this level of hatred. I'm assuming she moves in different circles and isn't exposed to this kind of low vibrational behavior. It comes as a shock to the system to finally realize how black men really feel about black women. I have to admit, she has a lot of fire in her and read them for filth. However, as mentioned earlier, I wish she hadn't done that, but I do understand why she did. Like Ms. Iyanla, she has found herself in a position where catering to the needs and talking points of the so-called community has now become her bread and butter. The difference between her and Ms. Iyanla, however, is that she's not too heavily embedded into the fabrics of the so-called community, so she actually has a chance to detach herself and move on to something a little more positive. She's never going to win trying to please the quote-unquote community because it's much more work than it's worth. It's okay to divest from the community and find a different avenue of making money. The so-called community are ungrateful and will never appreciate her efforts. As far as I'm concerned, she had nothing to explain to anyone, especially if people actually paid attention to everything she said. Not once did she demean or disrespect bus drivers. Like she said, her mother was one, so if anyone knows and understands what it truly means to be raised by a bus driver, she does. She, of all people, should know that experiencing life and most likely hardship while being provided for by someone in that line of work was not something she was willing to replicate. She, like a lot of other women, has every right to not want to be with a bus driver. It doesn't make them bad people, nor did she say any of that. She never said that there was something wrong with being a bus driver. She just simply said, if he owned the bus, maybe they could talk. It's okay to have elevated standards, ladies. Look, I'm sure Ms. Williams had worked extremely hard to be where she is in life, and with that comes options and the right to exclude those who don't qualify for what she's looking for. And of course, Sherri Shepherd weighed in on this situation and had, quote unquote, some advice for Ebony K. Williams. Let's take a listen.
I would say to you, Ebony, and I love you, girl, but I would say, don't sleep on dating a bus driver. Don't sleep on. Here's the thing, Ebony. We could do without actresses, talk show hosts, and reality stars and lawyers, but you cannot do without a bus driver and those essential workers. You cannot. Bus drivers make the world go round. And here's the thing bus drivers have, Ebony. They got benefits, girl. When I tell you, bus drivers and not just health insurance, they got 401ks. There are benefits to dating a bus driver. Because let me tell you something. If you, in the practical, if you are dating a bus driver and you ain't got no car, you tell all your girlfriends, girl, my man gonna pick us all up. He ain't come right there. See him turning around? Look at that, right there.
Is Sherri qualified to be given relationship advice? I get that to some extent. She was being humorous about this whole situation, but is she the right person to dish out any kind of dating, relationship, marriage advice, given her track record? Not only do her men not look right, aesthetically speaking, these men aren't attractive on any level. Can you imagine any one of these two breathing heavily on top of you, grunting, with faces like that? Ew. I know that looks aren't everything, but come on. Shrek, not only does she have bad taste in men, when she was married to her first husband, she refused to have a prenup based on the fact that she loved him. And in the end, her foolish decision to not have one left her with nothing. She lost everything. Once the relationship was over, she then had to start rebuilding her life from scratch. Let's take a listen.
What I will say is I did my first marriage without a prenup because I said it sets it up. I don't want that negativity in there where I'm like thinking about what we're going to do and how we're going to split everything. And I felt it wasn't faith. Like it set it up for, negative stuff negative energy to come in. And I was like, I love him and we're going to be together. And, divorce is not an option. So I did the first one without a prenup. Going through the divorce, I lost everything. When I say everything, my first home that I had bought with my money that I had saved up, I lost my home. We spent so much money on divorce, and I felt like that was money that was coming out of my son's mouth. The amount of money that we spent going through depositions. And I did my second marriage after losing everything. I did my second marriage. We had a prenup before anybody even walked down the aisle. Let me tell you something. this second divorce, he was like, I want the bedroom set. I want the speakers in the wall. When we had the TV coming out of the wall, I want all them speakers. I want the ATVs. I want the da-da-da. I said, no, you're not, because we got a prenup that said all of this stuff stay right here in the ceiling. Them ATVs stay right here. It was down to it made it easier. The home that I had bought, I didn't lose it because the prenup had already said your name will not be on the title of my home. So it can be, you're going to pay your own attorney's fees should something happen. I'm going to pay mine. When I didn't have a prenup, I had to pay all of these attorney's fees for him because it was all up in the air. This prenup, it was cut and dry. And so I'm saying it from a person who did it without and who did it with. And having a prenup, it just protects everything that you've worked so hard for. So you don't have to give it all to attorneys and to the courts.
With everything she said in mind, why would she be so nonchalant about giving such flimsy advice to another Black woman? This is why younger women need to be careful whose relationship advice they take. Sherri Shepherd is an older Generation X, which means her mindset is more aligned with the boomer mentality than her Xer counterparts. And I really hate to point this out because with every year that goes by, we're all aging. But there are certain groups, certain generations of women who were raised in a certain way and are quite problematic in their way of thinking. Being born on the cusp of the boomer generation and Generation X, her mindset will be more boomer than Xer, especially seeing as her father is also on the cusp of the silent generation and the boomer generation, while her mother was part of the silent generation. I'll tell you why this matters. This matters because there are certain trends, certain behaviors that we see in how people are raised, their mindset, and how they view certain things due to the environment that they were raised in. Pacifying Black men in particular has never helped Black women. It has created a lot of entitlement on their part and put Black women in danger and poverty. Sadly, a lot of older women tend to do that. This notion that just because you're a Black woman, you deserve less, you deserve to suffer, you deserve to struggle and lower your standards for the benefit of the so-called race is nothing short of retarded. Black women are the only ones who sacrifice for the so-called community while Black men go off to do whatever they want. As an educated Black woman, you should be proud of your achievements and feel no guilt in being with someone who's your equal or higher. It's your prerogative to do that. Misery loves company. And some of these women are bitter because they've failed at relationships and want you to end up the exact same way. They want you to provide a community service to a so-called community and a group of men who hate you and everything you stand for. Mary J. Blige, Wendy Williams, Wendy Raquel Robinson, Jill Scott, Sherri Shepherd, Ms. Iyanla herself, Tia Mowry. Well, she took in a stray and look what happened to her. Monique. That man doesn't appear to have worked a day in his life, but she seems okay with him riding her coattail. Mariah Carey. Well, she tapped into her Blackness, and that was excruciating. It doesn't pay for Black and mixed women to date down at all, but especially Black women. Even Gabrielle Union, who married up financially, is still expected to do 50-50 with a man who really, despite her income, should be taking care of her, but isn't. She's a perfect example of one of these Black women who only get married to say, "Oh, I have a husband." Why would any woman be okay or happy in a 50-50 relationship? The roommate husband setup, the roommate wife situation is extremely redundant. She would have less headaches if she divested from her seemingly leeching family members and perhaps rid herself of her roommate marriage situation. She's wasting precious years being married to someone who, as far as I can see, lives vicariously through his child and seemingly plays for the other team. Low self-esteem should be considered a mental illness, like seriously. It's incredibly heartbreaking to see some of these Black women living a lie. Not only do they do that, they pretend to enjoy it. Sad, really sad. Rich or poor, your obsession with Black men will never get you anywhere. Ask Danae Jackson. She has finally spoken up on that abusive marriage she was in with Derek Street Meat Jackson, and it's very sad. It's very sad what she allowed herself to endure. It's oh so sad what he chose to put her through. This woman tortured herself by being with a man who didn't care about her well-being. He allegedly had a revolving door of women taking turns with these women, but she still stayed in this toxic arrangement. Danae said it was like shift work. These women literally had time slots to service this man and would bypass each other on their way out, including herself. Should she have married him? Absolutely not. She saw the red flags prior to being married, but still went ahead with it anyway. She wanted to be with him so badly that she ignored her own needs. Let's not do this, ladies. She tortured herself to the point where she would go through his phone and find videos, recordings of him having sex with these women. What's even more insane is that she tried to emulate what some of these women were doing with him as she was having sex with him, allegedly. This is crazy. Let's not forget or ignore that she got with him soon after being essayed. This is really sad. And this is why I'm all for having breaks in between relationships to purge and center yourself. You need it. Unfortunately, there are some women who think that jumping into a relationship after trauma will somehow alleviate some of that pain. But it doesn't. It adds to it. Taking time to be alone after a relationship breakup is very important. You need to reflect and repair the broken parts of you. I understand that you can't be completely healed from it all, but you need that break from toxic forces because you can't keep adding to it. It has the ability to break you down completely. Some people never get out of that. There are those who get so caught up that they never get a chance to see the other side. Look, I think Adam said it better. Let's take a listen.
Here are 4 brutally uncomfortable truths to consider before starting any new relationship. And listen, if you're a bit of a Karen, a snowflake, or you're easily offended, please do yourself a favor and keep scrolling, because this is not for you. Number 1, if you are not comfortable being on your own, and I mean really, truly, deeply comfortable all on your own by yourself with no one else, then you will ignore the red flags that they show you. You will lower your boundaries and tolerate behavior that you know you don't deserve. And that makes you a doormat. A doormat that begs to be trampled on time and time and time again. And the funny thing is, you will allow them to trample all over you. You will allow them to treat you like shit because you're too scared to be on your own. So it's not about wanting to be on your own. It's about learning to be comfortable and at peace when you are alone, because that is your fucking superpower. Number 2, if you go into a relationship with needs, emotional needs, psychological needs, financial needs, any variation of needs whatsoever, then you become a beggar. And listen to me, beggars don't get what they want. The fuck do you think this is? Beggars get whatever is given to them. So when you understand and realize that you can cultivate everything that you need all by yourself, on your own, with no one else, then you step into your power and you no longer need the scraps that are given to you, because you get to choose whatever it is the fuck that you want. So here goes, number 3. You don't get in life what you want. You only ever get in life what you are. So if you go into any new relationship without actively trying to be the best you that you can possibly be, meaning that you are not working on your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health, then you are not a great catch. No, you're not. And your subconscious mind will know that you are not bringing the best you to the table. So you will only ever attract bottom of the barrel partners, because like attracts like. So if you want to attract better people into your life, you don't need to look anywhere other than inside of you. Because if you want better, you got to start fucking acting better. All right, let's go. Number 4. Those red flags that you ignore in the beginning are the same red flags that will come back later on down the line and rip your fucking heart out. You see, I'm talking to you. You're a teacher. And you teach people how to treat you based on what you are willing to tolerate from them. Because what you condone always sets the tone. So later on down the line, if you are unhappy with the way that someone is consistently treating you, then it is not on them. It is on you for being a shit teacher.
Thank you, Adam. His TikTok info will be in the description bar below. Let me just make something clear so as to not lead some of you younger women down a dark path of disappointment. Being hypergamous does not mean that a woman should forget about having an education, having dreams or aspirations. By all means, continue to work on all of those things. Continue to work on yourselves, because you may need some of those skills one day. It's important to remember that relationships do not always last forever. That is why every woman must have a nest egg for a rainy day. Even when your husband fully takes care of you, you need to have your own money in case things don't go as expected. Always remember that your education or side hustle are tickets out of a sticky situation. Look at them as your insurance policy for that rainy day. Hypergamy does not mean docility. It's great to be taken care of. Matter of fact, it's very enjoyable. But just remember that when dealing with another human being, there are things that could possibly happen that are completely out of your control. So live happily, live in the moment, enjoy your life together, as long as you're confident that if this life didn't exist, you are still able to take care of yourself. On that note, what are your thoughts on what's been discussed here today? Please leave your thoughts and comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And remember, ladies, divestment is not an online talking point. It's a real-life tool that allows you to weed out the undesirable in order to improve your existence. Thank you so much for watching. Love and light to you all. This is the Diamond Chrysalis, and I'll see you in the next upload. Divest like a butterfly. Bye, diamonds.